Discovering that your husband has been unfaithful is a very minor matter. During a dinner with friends, he, who had always been so aloof, suddenly took the initiative to serve everyone at the table. Later, I heard him quietly reciting a line from Roman Holiday in his study. To shake your hand, I shook everyone's hand. Humph. Jason and I both come from a remote small town. We were hardworking students. Through relentless studying, we excelled in the college entrance exam, earning a bachelor's degree from a 211 university and a master's degree from a 985 university. After graduation, we both secured positions in the government sector. Starting from the bottom, we took steady steps, gradually establishing ourselves and expanding our networks in the provincial capital where we had no prior connections. Now, we have both been promoted to department leaders, achieved respectable social status, purchased cars and homes, and our housing fund is sufficient to cover the loans. In short, we achieved secular success and a social class upgrade through the most traditional, fair, and straightforward means available to Chinese people. This year, Jason and I have 2 more pieces of good news. The first is that he was promoted to a leadership position in a company, with his salary increasing severalfold. The second is that I am pregnant. Yes, after 6 years of marriage, I finally conceived. Jason is the only son in his family, and there is a family history of weak sperm, making it highly unlikely for him to conceive after turning 30. Our journey to conceive over the past few years has been no less challenging than building a home and establishing a career. Fortunately, 2 months ago, during the first spring of Jason's 30s, I finally became pregnant. When we received the results, Jason, who rarely shows his emotions, hugged me tightly. He cried tears of joy like a child. After years of striving in this city, we have a few friends who gather regularly. Today was one of those days. When it was time to start eating, everyone gathered around Jason, praising him for his achievements at a young age and predicting that he would soon become a deputy director. Jason smiled modestly. At the office, he was known as a wordsmith and had always been highly regarded, with a touch of arrogance about him. Tyler and his wife are here today, someone said. Everyone's expressions turned awkward. Tyler was Jason's hometown friend. He had made some money as a contractor a couple of years ago, but developed a gambling addiction, not only squandering his fortune, but also ending up on the credit blacklist. Every time they gathered, he would drink himself into a stupor, cursing the heavens, the earth, and the unfairness of society. Last time, he even got into a fight with an old friend, beating him so badly that the man had to stay in the hospital for half a month. I asked him to come. Jason set down his teacup and said calmly, "After all, we've been friends for years. We can't just abandon him now that he's fallen on hard times." Seeing his stance, the others didn't dare say anything, just nodded awkwardly with forced smiles. I furrowed my brows slightly. It wasn't because of anything else, it was just that I was pregnant, and Tyler smoked like a chimney, chain-smoking one after another. Whenever I tried to give him a piece of my mind, he'd give me that smug look like I was looking down on him. I wanted to speak to Jason, but saw that his gaze was fixed on the door, as if expecting something. Bang! The door was pushed open forcefully. I jumped in surprise. Tyler walked in cursing. "The parking lot charged me $20. Why the hell didn't you go rob someone instead?" He pointed behind him and cursed, "You traitor. What kind of woman doesn't stand by her own man? You're the one turning your back on us." Behind him, a woman followed in with her head down, her face bearing faint fingerprints. This was Tyler's wife, Lily. She had a gentle and kind appearance, but unfortunately, she had a bad fate, ending up with such a violent husband like Tyler. Stop shouting. Be careful. Jason suddenly spoke in a deep voice, his tone clearly displeased. Tyler immediately changed his expression upon seeing him, his face breaking into a smile. Brother, I'm sorry. I'm just hot-tempered and didn't think about the situation. I'll punish myself with 3 cups of wine later. Saying this, he casually sat down at the table, picked up his chopsticks, and started eating peanuts, paying no attention to the people behind him. Lily stood awkwardly by the door. She quietly brushed a strand of hair down to cover her face. Everyone looked at her with sympathy and deliberately averted their gaze to spare her embarrassment. I sighed and spoke up. Lily, come sit down. The food will be served soon. She gave me a grateful smile and walked in to sit next to Tyler. Thank you, sister-in-law. After saying that, she glanced at Jason beside her and whispered, Thank you, brother. Jason's expression tightened slightly, but he said nothing. During the meal, Tyler started cursing and drinking, taking puffs of smoke and sips of alcohol, quickly turning as red as a shrimp. Lily helped him peel shrimp and poured him wine, barely eating anything herself. I was about to tell her to eat more. Jason suddenly extended his chopsticks and picked a piece of fish for Tango, who was hosting the meal. Tango chuckled, I'm hosting today. I should be the one serving you. It's the same, Jason said softly, then stood up and picked a shrimp for the person sitting below him. Following the seating order, he served everyone a piece of food or a bowl of soup. Everyone present was deeply touched. What's going on with Singo today? The sun must be setting in the west. Yeah, this is so unusual for us. It's definitely because his wife is pregnant and Singo is overjoyed. Exactly. That explains it. I was also a bit surprised at first, but hearing everyone else say it, I felt it made sense. Jason was reserved and not good at expressing himself. The news of my pregnancy was a huge blessing for him and his entire family. His parents back home were even more excited than when they found out he had passed the civil service exam. At that moment, I smiled and thought of teasing him a bit. But I saw him lift his gaze slightly, his eyes seeming to fall casually on the right front. I followed his gaze. Lily was lowering her head, sipping the soup with a spoon. Among the strands of hair hanging down, her almond-shaped eyes were slightly reddened. Jason had just served her a bowl of chicken soup. I work in human resources at the office. When it comes to observing people and their relationships, I'm relatively more experienced and perceptive than others. For example, I could tell at a glance. Jason's unusual behavior today was motivated by his desire to serve Lily that bowl of soup. Why would Jason suddenly care so much about Lily? I couldn't help but recall 2 months ago. Tyler's father had passed away, and Jason, as a fellow villager, had gone back to pay his respects and visit his in-laws. He stayed for 5 days, traveling with Tyler and his wife. Could something have happened during that time? The sensitivity of my job has taught me not to jump to conclusions easily. After all, objectively speaking, Jason has always been decent to me. We met by the campus lake during our university days. He was the first person to arrive for morning reading every day. I was the second. We were extremely similar. We both came from small towns with modest backgrounds. 3 generations had worked hard to send us to university, hoping we would bring honor to our families. Over the years, pressure and honor have been focused on us, and we've kept running without daring to slack off for a moment. I felt like I'd finally found a companion. Like when I was walking alone in the depths of the ocean, unable to see the sky, and realized I wasn't alone after all. I think that's what I mean to him as well. Regarding what happened at the dinner table that day, I didn't mention a word. That night, he held me tightly, his desire uncontrollable. Ching ching, can't we just wait? It's not been 3 months yet. Let's wait a little longer. He heaved a few deep breaths, got up from the bed, and said helplessly, I'm going to take a cold shower. I was half asleep when he woke me up. He furrowed his brows. Tyler is drunk again, smashing things all over the house. I'll go check on him. Who called you? I asked. His wife. She and the kids were crying on the phone. It sounded serious. I checked my phone. It was past 11 p.m. It's too late. Don't go. If there's really a problem, she can call the police. Besides, it's their family matter. You're not related to them. Grace. Jason suddenly shouted at me. I was startled by his voice. His face was filled with impatience, and his eyes betrayed a hint of unfamiliar sarcasm. When did you become so selfish? Now that you're living comfortably, you just stand by and watch your own kind suffer? You know Lily's personality. She wouldn't have come to me for help if she had no other choice. Grace, don't you feel ashamed for speaking so coldly to a friend? I stared at him in shock. It was as if I didn't recognize him. I hadn't argued with anyone in a long time. Not with colleagues, family, or even Jason. Long ago, I realized that arguing doesn't solve problems. It only leads to a loss of rationality, turning the conversation into an emotional clash. Even if you argue, it's a means, not an end. Anger harms the body. It harms your own body. At that moment, I closed my eyes and asked him calmly. The life I have now is something I've worked hard for step by step. Why should I feel ashamed because of someone else's misfortune? Jason stood by the bed, glaring at me coldly. I really did go today. I didn't know when Jason came back that night. When I left for work, his shoes were lying by the door. The door to the small bedroom was tightly closed. That day, I had an organizational review meeting. It was very important. I couldn't let him affect my emotions in any way. This little dispute would be resolved by tonight. When I came back from work, a hot meal was already on the table, along with a plate of sliced fruits. There was also a birthday cake. He brought out a bowl of soup, smiling as if nothing had happened, and said, "Perfect. Wash your hands and eat. I made your favorite braised fish." I lowered my eyes, slowly placed my bag on the cabinet by the door, then looked up and smiled. "Happy birthday." He laughed it off. 31 already, an old man now. During dinner, he mentioned offhandedly, "Last night I scolded Tyler, and he came back. I didn't want to wake you, so I slept in the next room." I nodded without saying anything. After finishing dinner and getting up, I remembered something and turned to tell him. "I've been sleeping poorly lately. Why don't you sleep in the small bedroom first?" He paused for a moment. All right. For the next few days, Jason and I returned to our peaceful routine. I was busy with interviews and onboarding for new hires at work, while he was focused on launching a new project at his company. It was as if nothing had ever happened. We were both rational people who weighed the pros and cons of everything. I thought this was probably one of the benefits of marrying a rational person. But soon, I realized I was wrong. My younger brother, Guanfeng, suddenly called me. He was 6 years younger than me, had just graduated with a master's degree, and was looking for a job. He beat around the bush for a while before finally asking, "Sis, how are you and your husband doing lately?" I was puzzled. Just get to the point. After he stammered through his explanation, a wave of anger began to rise within me. Guanfeng studied materials engineering. In recent years, almost all graduates from his department who wanted to stay in the city were hired by the company Jason now manages. But Guanfeng said he was rejected in the interview stage. The reason was that the higher-ups didn't approve. Sis, out of the 8 people in our class who stayed in the city, I'm the only one rejected. So I'm wondering if your husband has some other plans. After hanging up, I composed myself and immediately called Jason. He didn't answer. 10 minutes later, he called back. What aspect of Guanfeng's qualifications does not meet your company's hiring criteria? I asked directly. He paused for a moment on the other end before speaking softly. Ching, there's nothing wrong with him. Then why wasn't he approved? Well, here's the thing. The leadership team wanted to hire someone with social experience this time, so they reduced the quota. After careful consideration, I did indeed suggest removing Guanfeng's name. I've only been in this position for a short time, and bringing in my own nephew would inevitably lead to rumors of favoritism. Ching, you should understand. I don't understand. I interrupted him. Guanfeng majored in the field before you were transferred. Even if you hadn't been in management, he would have been 100% hired by that company. There's no question of favoritism. Besides, you said the leadership team wanted someone with social experience, so they reduced the quota. As the deputy general manager in charge, wasn't that your suggestion? Jason fell silent for a few seconds, his tone growing colder. Grace, you work in HR too. I didn't expect you to act so immature at a critical moment. In any case, this matter has already been decided. It's not something you can change by throwing a tantrum. He hung up the phone. I clutched my stomach and bent over, feeling sharp pains. When Guanfeng was admitted to university, his goal was to join this major state-owned enterprise in the industry. I never imagined that as his older sister, not only did I fail to help him achieve his life goal, but because of this brother-in-law, I ended up holding him back. I felt utterly heartbroken. Jason and I began a cold war. But this time, his attitude seemed unusually firm, showing no signs of backing down or softening, despite my pregnancy. Guanfeng tried to comfort me. Sis, don't blame your brother-in-law. He's new to the company and must be facing challenges. I'm young. Going to another company to gain experience won't be a bad thing. 2 days later, while having lunch with my colleagues, I unexpectedly ran into Lily. She was dining with a group of men and women, speaking in their hometown dialect, likely a gathering of fellow villagers. Upon seeing me, she smiled slightly and walked over with a man by her side. Sister-in-law, what a coincidence. I smiled and nodded. Yes, what a coincidence. The man beside her smiled broadly at me. My aunt told me you're Mr. Su's wife. I came over to say hello. I'm one of his employees. I asked politely. Hello, which department are you in? He smiled and said, I'm part of the new batch of hires. I'm still in my internship. Thanks to Mr. Su, I got this opportunity. The company never hires non-recent graduates, but my aunt asked him to make an exception for me, so I wouldn't have had a chance otherwise. I lowered my eyes and remained silent for a while. Lily spoke softly. One day, I'll arrange for Tyler and me to have dinner with you and Singe. The 4 of us can eat together. How about it, sister-in-law? The soup bowl on the table had a layer of white grease on it, making it unappetizing and disgusting. I slowly raised my eyes and smiled. Sure. At 10 o'clock that night, Jason walked in while I was lying on the bed reading. The party office at work had organized a reading-sharing session, and I had chosen selected works. He extended his hand and handed me a stack of money. Guanfeng just graduated and needs to rent a place. Here's 5,000 for him. Consider it a little sponsorship from your older brother-in-law. I glanced at the money in his hand. No need. Jason furrowed his brows, paused for a few seconds, then said with a hint of restraint, Grace, you're not still holding a grudge over the interview, are you? I've gained some power now, but precisely because of this power, every step I take is like walking on thin ice. Why can't you understand me? I closed the book. I meant he doesn't need the money because Guanfeng doesn't need to rent a place. He bought a house. Jason froze, looking stunned. Bought a house? Where did Guanfeng get the money to buy a house? Your family only has your parents' retirement wages. Didn't you say they've been waiting for him to graduate and get a job? I suddenly looked up and stared at him in silence. He met my gaze abruptly, realizing something, his expression slightly uneasy. He cleared his throat before continuing. He has a master's degree. Even if he can't get into this company, he'll find a job somewhere. Sigh. Ching-Ching, we're husband and wife, the closest people in the world. You're pregnant now. Don't argue with me over this. Take the money back. How could he afford to buy a house? He didn't have it, but I lent him 300,000 yuan. With the current housing market downturn, it's just enough for a down payment on a small second-hand apartment. I explained slowly, my tone casual. What did you say? Jason looked at me in disbelief. You gave him 300,000 yuan? Grace, how could you make such a big decision on your own and only tell me now? I leaned back on the bed and tilted my head to look at him. Jason, have you been working too hard lately? How can you not hear me clearly? I clearly said borrowed, not given. Besides, isn't this the same as when you took 300,000 yuan from me 2 years ago to buy a house for your sister after she divorced, and you only told me afterward? His face turned grim. How can that be the same? How is it not the same? My sister was kicked out of her in-laws' house and had nowhere to go. Plus, I asked your opinion and you agreed. Guanfeng just graduated, he's young, and buying a house isn't something to rush into. I nodded slowly. Yes, originally Guanfeng had secured a job and could live in the company dormitory, so there was no rush to buy a house. But now he's been rejected, has nowhere to live, so he decided to move up the house buying plan. As for acting on his own, I'm asking for your permission now, aren't I? Jason stood there speechless, opening his mouth to speak, but unable to find the words. Jason, I can understand your sister. Can't you understand my brother? Or do you think I have no right to make this decision in this family? I looked at him quietly. 3 years of dating, 6 years of marriage. I know him well. His innate personality makes him react emotionally when faced with sudden situations, but his acquired personality allows him to calm down quickly and make rational decisions in a short time. The money has been given, and the matter is settled. And clearly, there was a reason for it. The reason started with him and was amplified by me. It was fair. The bedroom fell silent for a moment. Jason stood by the bed, his expression changing several times before returning to normal, even with a hint of tolerance. Of course, Ching-Ching, you have the right to make decisions in this family. Guanfeng is your younger brother, not an outsider. It's only right that we borrow money for his important life event. I curved my lips and replied in a gentle tone. All right, I'm a bit tired and need to sleep. You should rest early as well. He walked out in silence, but turned back at the door and spoke after a moment of hesitation. There's one more thing I need to tell you. Tyler and his wife want to invite us to dinner. If you don't want to go, I'll go alone. I'll go. Tyler had invited us to a family dinner. When Jason and I arrived, he was standing with his back to us on the balcony, speaking softly into the phone while someone was demanding payment. His 9-year-old son, Xiaohu, opened the door. He didn't call anyone else over when he saw us, instead holding his phone and entering the room with a cold expression. Tyler, feeling dejected, turned around and saw us, rushing over to greet us. He angrily scolded Lily, who was carrying a bowl of hot soup out of the kitchen, telling her she had no eyes and didn't even notice the guests had arrived. Lily flinched from the scolding, and the scalding soup splashed onto her hand, leaving a large red mark. Jason slammed the gift onto the table and said harshly, "Enough, enough. I came here to eat, not to watch you scold a woman." Lily bit her lip and forced a smile. "I'm fine. He's in a bad mood. Let him vent a little. It won't hurt him." Jason glanced at her hand, his expression darkening. I was a bit puzzled, wondering why Jason was so concerned about her hand. Lily was a hardworking and capable woman. She had been busy all day, preparing a feast for the table. During the meal, Jason couldn't hold back and lectured Tyler. "She cooks and cleans for you every day, and you don't appreciate it. Don't take her for granted. You better never lay a hand on her again. That's domestic violence. Do you know that?" Tyler nodded repeatedly while drinking. Lily, however, burst into laughter. Never mind, never mind. Men work hard and face a lot of pressure outside. If they can't vent their frustration on their closest family, who else can they vent on? I take care of him at home and make sure everything is good. Everything will be fine. I was lowering my head to drink soup when I heard this and suddenly looked up, unable to believe my ears. I heard Jason sigh softly beside me. The sigh carried a hint of emotion. Tyler had already drunk quite a bit and was now looking smug, slurring his words. "Bro, she may not be as capable as your wife, but when it comes to taking care of people, your wife can't hold a candle to her. And in bed, she really knows how to." "Tyler, you've had enough. Go to bed." Jason snapped at him. Lily's face turned bright red, and she was too embarrassed to say anything. In her panic, she made eye contact with Jason and awkwardly tried to change the subject. Singa, I still need to thank you for helping my nephew. If it weren't for you..." "You're mistaken." Jason interrupted her with an even harsher tone, his face tense. "How would I know your nephew? You must have gotten it mixed up." Lily froze, looking confused, seemingly unaware of the sudden change in his attitude. The air grew deathly quiet. I chuckled, breaking the silence. "Lily, you should thank him, but you should also thank me. After all, the special spot your nephew got in the company was only made available because Jason pushed my brother out." The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. Jason's chopsticks froze midair. On the way home, I didn't say a word. Upon entering the house, I went straight to the bedroom to pack my luggage. Jason sat alone in the living room for a while before slowly walking in with heavy footsteps. He stood by the door, his voice calm and steady. "Grace, there's a misunderstanding. I hope you won't act impulsively. Let me explain. I promise everything I'm about to say is the truth." I didn't speak or look at him, continuing to fold the clothes at a steady pace. Regarding Guanfeng, I admit I had personal motives. Having just been transferred to the company with so many eyes on me, I had to be cautious at every step. But if I came first and my younger brother-in-law followed shortly after, those who knew the truth wouldn't say anything. But what about those who didn't know or simply didn't care? They would seize on the outcome and make a big deal out of it. So my personal motive was to eliminate this possibility from the root, to avoid giving others ammunition. As for Lily's relative, it was purely coincidental. The position was vacant anyway, so I thought I might as well do her a favor. Of course, this position is highly sought after. Why give it to Lily? Because I feel sorry for her. At this point, his voice suddenly grew heavy. That time when we went back to the village with them, I saw Tyler and Tyler's mother verbally abuse her and even lay hands on her. Sigh, it reminded me of my sister. I zipped up my suitcase and prepared to push it out. Jason grabbed my hand tightly. Ching ching. Don't act impulsively, okay? I admit that I wronged Guanfeng, so you lent him money, and I didn't say a word, did I? After all these years, and you're pregnant, are you really going to condemn me to death over this one thing? By this point, his voice was choked with emotion, and the corners of his eyes were red. Apart from when I was pregnant, I hadn't seen him this upset in years. I slowly pulled my hand away, my voice as calm as ever. I'm going to the training. He looked at me with reddened eyes, studying my expression to gauge whether I was telling the truth. Training? I never heard you mention anything about training. I lowered my eyes and showed him my phone. There was a notice about a management training meeting, and the location was our alma mater in the city. He stared at it for a moment, then hesitantly asked, "You told me before that you wouldn't attend any training after getting pregnant. Why are you suddenly going now?" People's thoughts change. I just decided I wanted to go. I looked at him expressionlessly. I drove myself to the university hotel, checked in, and began the 4-day training session. On the first day, Jason called me 9 times and sent over a dozen messages with reminders, but I didn't answer any of them or reply to any of the messages. On the second day, he sent a WeChat message saying that Guanfeng needed to buy a house and renovate it, and he had just received a 50,000 yuan quarterly bonus that he could use to help out. The money had already been transferred to Guanfeng. I still didn't respond. On the third day, he said that Lily's distant nephew had been dismissed from his internship due to failing the assessment, and they were arranging to notify the rejected candidates about job openings. On the fourth day, he asked if I needed a ride home. I said yes. After Guanfeng started his new job, he specifically came to find me once. We siblings have always been very close. When he was 5 or 6 years old, he would cry while standing in front of me to protect me when I was being bullied by older students, saying, "Sister, you run first." This time, he was very worried about me. "Sister, did you fight with your husband?" I shook my head. "No, you know I'm not good at arguing." He furrowed his brows. "But why did your husband suddenly change his mind?" "He even gave me money." "I just feel uneasy." "Sister, if my actions have affected your relationship, I'd rather not take this job." I patted his head. "Silly boy. What's there to feel uneasy about? You're getting what you deserve. Now, everything is just returning to the way it should be. As for the money, well, just think of it as compensation. That's normal." Guanfeng spoke seriously, "Sis, don't worry. I'll definitely pay you back. I won't let anyone say you're a sister who supports her brother." I chuckled. "But how did you do it?" "My brother-in-law isn't the type to change his mind easily." I told him gently. "There are many ways to solve problems. You don't have to tear your face off and argue loudly. A black cat or a white cat, as long as it catches mice, it's a good cat, right?" A month passed, and there were no changes in my life with Jason. In fact, from start to finish, we never argued or fought over this matter. All the different expressions were kept within the framework and rhythm of daily life. It was as if a problem had appeared unintentionally and then disappeared just as unintentionally. Jason reduced his contact with Tyler and never mentioned Lily again, as if he had suddenly cut off all ties with the couple. He went to work on time every day and took meticulous care of me during my pregnancy. 3 months passed, and my appetite returned. He began to carefully consider my daily diet again. Life seemed happy and peaceful, except for 2 small things. The first was that I found a receipt from a jewelry store in his pocket, priced at 28,888 yuan. I took a photo and went to the store. The staff showed me the photo. It was a gold bracelet. "I remember your husband. He said he was buying it as a surprise for his wife. You two are so happy." The second incident happened last week. My car had some issues and was being repaired at the 4S store. Jason had been driving me back and forth these past few days. That day, it was pouring rain, and I waited at the agreed intersection for 40 minutes. When I called him, it kept showing busy. When he finally arrived, I was soaked on one side. I had to take an urgent call from a superior and arrived late. Why didn't you just take a taxi? It was raining too hard to get a taxi. I sneezed. But yesterday, when I went to a friend's cake shop to buy desserts, my friend told me, "On the day of the heavy rain, your husband's car was parked in front of my store for almost an hour." I thought no one was inside, but then the car suddenly started and drove away. Turns out he was on the phone inside the car. I was taken aback. What time was that? Around 5 or 6 in the afternoon. I turned around and looked toward the store entrance. It was just one corner away from the intersection where I had been waiting for him. In other words, on that day, while I was waiting for him in the heavy rain for 40 minutes, he was just around the corner, sitting in the car making a phone call. Was there something so urgent that he couldn't even drive a little further? That night, I heard him watching Roman Holiday in his study, murmuring a line from the movie. "To shake your hand, I shook everyone's hand." He said this with his eyes slightly closed. His face was tinged with an indescribable expression. I recalled the 4th day of training at my alma mater. That day, I went to the campus lake and stayed there alone for a long time. I gazed at the rippling lake surface. I hesitated and paced back and forth. Midway through, I received a call from my mother. "Ching Ching, Mom's legs aren't good, so I can't come to take care of you. You need to stay in a good mood while you're pregnant. Eat as much as you can. Remember, everything is for the baby." As soon as my mom hung up, my mother-in-law called. "Ching Ching, you need to nourish your body. Jason's dad and I are coming to take care of you. Let me know what you want to eat, and I'll prepare it in advance." At the same time, as if they had planned it, Jason sent a WeChat message asking if he should pick me up. I scrolled through the messages, gently rubbing my belly. Before leaving Campus Lake, I replied, "Okay. Jason has his strengths. He's smart, reliable, hardworking, and willing to persevere toward his goals. More importantly, he has potential. This is crucial. As for his flaws, I used to think they stemmed mainly from his innate personality, selfishness, impatience, vanity. But these are human traits, and I have them too. As long as they can be controlled reasonably and treated rationally, they are not enough to hinder life. But now, I think maybe I need to consider it a bit more deeply. After all, the environment has changed. He is standing at a height he has never reached before in his life. A new environment brings new problems. New problems require new solutions. Life, we are all feeling our way forward. I just didn't expect it. The twists and turns of fate unfolded in an unexpected way. It came out of nowhere. It was overwhelming. The day before I retrieved the car, I attended a meeting at the Women's Federation in the city. Since the meeting ended early, I took a taxi home on my own. On the elevated highway, the car was violently rear-ended by a truck, causing it to roll over multiple times before finally coming to a halt after colliding with a bridge pillar. As I lost consciousness, I saw the driver struggling to escape. After an unknown amount of time, I slowly regained consciousness amid the chaos and commotion. The scene outside was chaotic, with several vehicles involved, but mine was the worst. I felt a dull pain in my abdomen. Just as I was panicking, an ambulance arrived with its siren blaring. Through the glass window, I saw my taxi driver speaking to the medical staff, pointing in my direction. The medical staff immediately rushed over to me. Just as I began to relax, I suddenly saw Jason. He stopped the medical staff. His expression was serious, and he spoke loudly. His firm voice echoed in my ears. Save the child first. I demand that you save the child first. Behind him was Lily, her face filled with anxiety. Xiuhu was crying loudly in her arms, with blood on his calf. When I came to, I was lying in the hospital. The doctor spoke gently to me. It's good that you had your seatbelt on. You only have a minor head injury. You're awake now, so you'll be fine. What about the child? I touched my stomach. He's okay. Just keep an eye on him. I remained silent for a moment before asking again. Have all the injured from the accident been brought here? Yes. After the doctor left, I got out of bed. I walked down the hallway, room by room, and finally found the person I was looking for in the farthest corner. Xiuhu was lying in bed with one leg in a cast, asleep. Lily sat beside him, wiping away tears, looking helpless and pitiful. Singa, thank goodness you were here today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known what to do. Jason stood beside her, his expression restrained as he reached out to touch her head, but hesitated, his hand hovering in midair. Lily saw his hand and her face flushed slightly. After a moment, her soft voice rang out. Singa, you've been so good to me. I'm willing. Jason's lips pressed tightly together. Don't mention it. We're friends. It's what I should do. Lily lowered her head, revealing her fair neck, her voice soft as water. No one has ever been this kind to me. Singa, I've remembered everything. That time I asked you to help my nephew on a whim, and you agreed right away. I never expected you'd put me before your own sister-in-law, even though that's not right. But I'm truly moved. That day it was pouring rain, and I was a little scared. You didn't even drive the car. You stopped halfway and stayed with me for an hour. And today, when the accident happened, I didn't know who to call, so I called you. I never expected you'd come so quickly. I've had a hard life. My family favored boys over girls when I was young, and after I got married, Tyler beat and abused me. This is the first time I've ever felt cared for by someone. As she spoke, she took Jason's hand and placed it on her face. Jason didn't resist. Singa, I've actually always remembered that night 2 months ago. We were rushing from Tyler's hometown in the mountains to the county seat. Tyler was sound asleep in the passenger seat, and you and I were squeezed by the luggage with no room to move, so we had to hold each other tightly. I could tell you were suffering. I knew you hadn't been with your wife for a long time because she was pregnant, so I reached out and touched you. I remember. Jason suddenly spoke up. The night in the mountains was so dark, and your hands were so white. I've never seen hands that white. Lily blushed even more. Singa, I only helped you once, but you've been so kind to me. I really feel guilty. Jason fell silent for a moment before saying in a hoarse voice, Once is worth more than many times. When my in-laws called me, I had just returned to the ward from the operating room. Upon learning I was injured in the hospital, they rushed straight from the train station. Seeing my swollen eyes and pale face, my mother-in-law's voice trembled. Child, the child. I lay weakly on the bed, sobbing aloud. Dad, Mom, the child is gone. The doctor said that if I had arrived 5 minutes earlier, the child could have been saved. But the first ambulance was blocked by someone, and they took the ambulance, taking away my child's chance at life. My father-in-law shouted angrily with red eyes. Who was it? Who killed my grandson? I'll make them pay with their lives. I was so emotional that I fainted from crying. What happened later, I heard from the nurse. My father-in-law and mother-in-law found out what had happened and rushed to Lily's ward. At that time, Jason wasn't there. He was outside buying food for her and the baby. When he returned with dumplings, He saw his parents pinning Lily to the ground and slapping her face relentlessly, with no one able to stop them. Lily couldn't move, her face swollen beyond recognition, emitting continuous, agonizing screams. My mother-in-law looked up and saw her son standing at the door, letting out a heart-wrenching scream. "Son, it was this woman's child who stole the ambulance meant for your wife. Your son is gone." Jason's eyes widened, and the bowl slipped from his hands. The steaming dumplings scattered all over the floor, while I lay unconscious in the hospital bed. Upon learning that the man who had blocked the ambulance was their own son, the in-laws slapped Jason several times before looking up and sighing deeply. It's all fate. In their profound grief, they decided that under no circumstances could I find out about this. Otherwise, I would surely hate him to death. So when I woke up and saw Jason, dazed and tearfully confessing that he hadn't protected the child, he could only kneel on the ground in agony and shame, silently letting 2 streams of hot tears flow down his face. After staying in the hospital for a few days, I returned home to recover. My in-laws came with high hopes, but left heartbroken. As they departed, they looked at me with pity. If the Sue family is destined to have no heirs, there's nothing anyone can do. It's just a tragedy for you. Over the next month, Jason took care of me with unwavering devotion. Despite his busy work schedule, he devoted all his free time to me, caring for me more diligently than anyone would during a traditional postpartum recovery period. Most of the time, I lay in bed, eating the postpartum meals he prepared for me or reading selected works. I gradually recovered as he grew increasingly gaunt. Unit leaders and representatives from the Women's Federation came to visit me. I was involved in a car accident while on a business trip during work hours, so it was classified as a work-related injury. The head of the unit was a female leader who empathized deeply with my situation. Standing by my bedside, she comforted me with kind words. "Grace, don't worry about work. Don't feel any burden. Everyone in the unit has noticed your work ethic and dedication. In this year's performance evaluation, you received the highest number of votes." I was deeply moved and said, "Thank you, leader. Thank you, colleagues. I will definitely live up to everyone's expectations in the future. Take good care of your health. There will be more opportunities for you to contribute in the future." After the female leader and her entourage left, I leaned against the bed and closed my eyes in deep thought. Jason walked in and asked me in a gentle voice, "Ching Ching, what soup would you like today?" I opened my eyes and thought for a moment. "Pork rib and lotus root soup." "All right, I'll go to the market to buy fresh ingredients." Watching Jason's figure disappear beyond the door, I picked up the book Selected Works by the bed and read the notes aloud, word by word. Fully leverage your initiative and break through the obstacles on the path forward. Turn disadvantages into advantages. Transform unfavorable conditions into favorable ones. When my body was nearly fully recovered, Tyler brought Lily to visit me as well. I was kind and gentle to Lily, but she avoided my gaze. When I spoke, my eyes fell on her wrist. "Lily, that gold bracelet is beautiful. It must be expensive." Tyler snorted. "Where would she have the money to buy real gold? It's just a fake she bought at a street stall. It's worthless." Lily looked flustered and hurriedly said, Yes, I bought it for just a few $dozen. I just thought it was pretty and bought it to wear for fun." I remembered something and smiled as I pulled out my phone to show her a photo. "Look, this bracelet was secretly bought by Jason as a surprise for me. If I hadn't found the receipt in his clothes, I wouldn't have known." Tyler's eyes lit up. "Oh, is this one real? How much did it cost?" "The receipt says $28,800. I laughed, "But you guys have to keep it a secret from him. He hasn't given it to me yet." As I said this, I suddenly stopped. Wait, this one looks a lot like the one Lily is wearing. Tyler leaned in closer, squinting his eyes. They're exactly the same. Lily forced a smile. Maybe they copied the design. These days, counterfeit goods are made to look exactly like the real thing. I laughed. Yeah, you can't buy the real thing at a flea market. Tyler looked at the photo on his phone, then glanced at Lily's wrist again, furrowing his brows slightly. I started talking about gossip again. Lily, it's rare for you to come chat with me. I've been so bored at home lately. Hey, do you remember the couple who lived across the street from me? They sold their house and moved away. Lily asked reluctantly, what? Why? I shook my head and sighed. The man next door had an affair with another woman's wife. He was caught by her husband, and to settle the matter, he had to pay a huge sum of money and even sell the house. Tyler sat beside me, silent for a long time. After I started working, Jason's condition grew increasingly listless. The loss of that child had dealt him a massive blow. He forced a smile in front of me, but most of the time, he sat alone, staring blankly into space, looking lifeless. Tyler suddenly started inviting him out for drinks frequently. At first, he refused, afraid I'd mind. I said to him with sympathy, it's okay, go ahead. Everyone's going through a tough time. It's good to have a friend to talk to and relax. He looked at me, his eyes filled with emotion. Ching-ching, with modern medicine so advanced, once you recover your health, you will definitely have another chance to have a child. I nodded. Yes, I will definitely have another child. He might have been lying to me, but I absolutely did not lie to him. After all, the doctor told me that my body had recovered well this time and would not affect future conception. The female leader kept her word. After returning to work, she began to rely on me more. Grace, in the workplace, women do face many disadvantages compared to men. But as long as we work hard and are willing to put in the effort, we will never be worse than them. I threw myself into my work with even greater dedication, seizing the career opportunities that came my way. One evening, as I was getting ready to sleep, Jason suddenly looked troubled and spoke up. Tyler is drunk again and beating someone. This time, both of them called me at the same time. Ching-ching, if you need me to come with you, I'll go. Go, I said seriously. Hurry up. If something happens, it'll be trouble. That night, I was sleeping soundly when I was awakened by noise outside. When I got up and went out, I was shocked to see Tyler sitting casually in the living room. Sis, you go back to sleep. I'll stay with Singa to get something, and we'll leave right after. Tyler was slouching, looking careless. I went to the study in confusion. I bumped into Jason coming out. He was disheveled, with messy hair, and there were clear handprints on his face. Jason, what happened? He panicked, and the money in his hand scattered on the ground. Nothing. I accidentally knocked over someone's stall while driving. I'll give Tyler some money to compensate them. Don't worry. As Tyler left with the money, he glanced at Jason, waving his phone, and said enigmatically, Bro, I'll take this much for now. If it's not enough, we'll talk later, okay? Jason's jaw twitched. Hurry up and leave. They both said it was nothing, so I went back to bed. I slept straight through until dawn. Half a year later, I was reporting work to my superiors when I suddenly received a call from the police. The call only said to go to the police station, but didn't specify why. My superiors called the union to accompany me. At the police station, the officer told me that my husband Jason had gotten into a fight and cut off someone's ear. I was completely bewildered. Who cut whom? Jason cut off Tyler's ear. The police repeated it and explained the situation in detail. It turned out that on the night 6 months earlier, when Tyler had domestic violence with Lily, Jason had gone to his house to mediate. Both of them had gotten drunk. Tyler woke up in the middle of the night and found himself lying in the living room while sounds of his wife's intimate moans were coming from the bedroom. He walked in and saw Jason on top of Lily, his anger boiling over. He rushed forward, pulled the two apart, and beat Jason senseless. To keep Tyler quiet, Jason was forced to agree to pay him a sum of money. That's why I stumbled upon the two of them that night. But Tyler was deep in debt. How could a single payment settle everything? Over the next 6 months, Tyler extorted money from Jason using videos he had taken on his phone, eventually demanding over 1.8 million yuan. I was stunned and exclaimed, "Impossible. Where did he get 1.8 million yuan? Online loans," Jason confessed. He had borrowed over 1 million yuan from various platforms. This time, Tyler demanded another 500,000 yuan, and in a fit of rage, Jason grabbed a kitchen knife from Tyler's home and attacked him, cutting off his ear. I sat there in shock, unable to process what had happened. Union representatives patted me on the shoulder sympathetically. "Mr. Guan, you must stay strong." Tyler was sentenced to 10 years in prison for extortion. Jason was dismissed from his position for serious violations of laws and regulations and was also convicted of intentional injury, receiving a 1-year sentence. I divorced Jason while he was in prison. I had no knowledge of his loans, so the debt has nothing to do with me. On the day we signed the divorce agreement, I saw him for the first time in months. He was emaciated, almost unrecognizable. There were no tears or sobbing as I had imagined. He sat there indifferently, his expression blank and vacant. When he saw me, his body trembled, and he bowed his head deeply. He bowed so low that it created an eerie posture. Throughout the entire process, he trembled slightly. I remained calm and detached. As we were about to part, he suddenly called out to me. I turned to look at him. His eyes betrayed a hint of confusion. "You know, why is life so strange? Just a short while ago, I was standing at the top, full of ambition. How could I suddenly become this person? Grace, tell me, why is that?" I looked at him calmly. "Jason, you've forgotten your original aspirations and the path you've taken. Every step you've taken to get here was your own choice. Can you truly say you don't understand?" Back at the office, my colleagues congratulated me, saying my temporary assignment had been approved. 2 months earlier, due to the commotion caused by Jason's incident, I had approached my supervisor to request a temporary assignment to a lower-level district, expressing my sincere desire to work in a different environment for a while. I walked with steady steps, preparing to go thank my supervisor. On the way, I received a video call from the doctor. After the surgery, I often consulted her to help my body recover quickly, and we gradually became friends. I found an empty conference room to take the call. After chatting for a few minutes, she said, "Grace, thinking back to how you were during the surgery, I'm still shocked. One moment you were worried about the baby's safety, and the next you came to me and said you wanted to terminate the pregnancy. Where did you find the courage?" I smiled and said, "I deeply admire my current leader. She once said something that has always stayed with me. Women are inherently fragile, but once they muster the courage to take a leap of faith, nothing can stop them." After hanging up, I turned around and saw my superior standing at the meeting room door. I suddenly realized something and felt my body tense up slightly. She paused for a moment. "I heard you were looking for me. I was just about to find you, so I came over." I nodded. "Yes, boss, the approval came through. I wanted to come and thank you." She paused for a few seconds, looked at me, and slowly smiled. "Grace, I was worried that you might not be able to handle things down there. But now, I'm relieved. Work hard for 2 years, and I'll be waiting for you to come back and show your true potential." I suppressed my excitement and gave her a reassuring smile. "Please rest assured, sir." Epilogue. When Jason was released from prison, Lily was standing outside the iron gate. "I've divorced Tyler. You've done so much for me. I'm willing to follow you and serve you for the rest of my life." Her eyes were filled with tears as she looked at him weakly. Jason stared at her for a few seconds. Suddenly, he turned and ran away. He ran quickly and fiercely, as if something was chasing him. After much effort, he managed to find Grace's current phone number. Yes, he wanted to try again with Grace. During his year in prison, he often thought of Grace, missing every moment they had spent together. In this world, only she understood him. Only she could support him. 10 years ago, when he had nothing, Grace was willing to enter his life. Now, though he was down on his luck, he had the ability to work and life experience. He believed life could start anew. He dialed her number. There was some noise on the other end, as if a workplace competition was underway. "Blue team, number 3 out. Red team, number 8 out." Jason calmly called out her name. "Grace, it's Jason." "I'm out." Grace's surprised voice came through. "Why are you calling me?" Jason took a deep breath, spoke slowly and deliberately. "Grace, I want to pursue you again." There was a 2-second silence on the phone, followed by a soft laugh. This was the reaction he had anticipated. He remained calm and continued. "I know you haven't forgiven me yet, but that's okay. I'll take my time. Life is long, and I'll make a comeback. Grace, during my year in prison, I kept thinking about our child. You were hurt and suffered, and I'll make it up to you." The phone was interrupted by a loud announcement. "Please welcome Director Guan to the stage to announce the results of the employee competition." "Jason, that child was aborted by my own choice." Amidst the applause, Grace spoke those words clearly and decisively. Jason froze. "What did you say?" The sound of high heels echoed elegantly as Grace seemed to be walking away. "The child was fine. I overheard your conversation with Lily at the hospital and had it terminated. When you chose to save someone else's child, you abandoned your own. So don't come looking for me anymore. Don't ever show up in my life again. Jason, you're already out of the picture." As the last word was spoken, the phone hung up. Jason sat in the cramped, dimly lit cheap hotel room. He remained motionless for a long time, stiff as a frozen statue. Over the next 2 years, Jason failed repeatedly, achieving nothing. To survive, he had to start delivering takeout. One day, he encountered Lily again in a dilapidated house. She opened the door to receive the delivery. Her eyes were red and swollen, and her body was covered in bruises. A man inside was pointing at her and yelling. A familiar scene, a familiar person. Jason almost ran away in panic, grateful that he had brought a mask. 2 more years passed, and he had no desire to start a career. He thought delivering food was fine. Now, at that moment, he finally realized with sadness. His life would be nothing more than this. Occasionally, he would think of the young man studying by the campus lake in the wind from his electric scooter. Poor and struggling, but full of possibilities. With a future. With beautiful girls. It seemed like him. Yet it didn't seem like him. And